will call the meeting to order. Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do roll call. Larry Batt,
Present.
Carrie Malco,
Here.
Shane Williams is present. Brittany Malt, Amy Townsend.
present. Right. We need to approve the presented agenda. Motion. Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Go to public comment. Was there anyone that signed up for that?
I just checked and there wasn't anyone.
Okay, we will move on to our presentations. We have Justin Wise ready to do it for us tonight.
I'm here to present to you the idea of building a new bridge in place of the old one. This will be in the middle of the ditch behind the bus area. Hello, I'm Justin Wise. I'm a student here at Wes-Del, but I'm also a Boy Scout. The main goal of scouting is to reach the rank of Eagle Scout. To do that, you have to carry out a project. I would like to build a project for Wes-Del. Build a bridge for Wes-Del. This bridge will be in about the same spot as the old bridge. If Wes-Del had this bridge, there would be a couple of benefits that come. We could have cross-country meets. It's been a long time since we had this, and that goes back to the old bridge that was there. We'd be able to make money off of these meets. This would help with buying certain things for the team and school. Another great thing is that it would provide easier accessibility for golf carts and mowers to get from side to side. The next big thing I will talk to you about is the bridge criteria. First off, it needs to look good. The last thing we want is to put down a bridge and have it be an eyesore. Mr. Mealy has said that he would like for golf carts to be able to cross this bridge. This would also allow for mowers to be able to cross back and forth. The bridge also must not pollute the water in any way. Finally, it cannot obstruct the waterway. The first picture is the front view. For this idea, you will have to have 2 telephone poles on the side, gravel in the middle. The gravel will have a high point in the middle with the rest of it spilling out. The telephone poles will hold the gravel in. The culvert will be buried in the middle of the gravel. In the next picture, it shows the side view of the bridge. The bridge will be about 25 feet long and 5 feet deep. This next idea would actually be a little less costly. The telephone poles that we would use in this design and the last one would be given to us for free. This design has the same gravel board, but the walls of telephone poles go all the way up instead of having the gravel spill out. This would lower the cost because we would need less gravel. Finally, we would need more telephone poles to stick upright in the ground so the walls do not fall out. It is up to you whether you would want idea 1 or 2, or if there are other suggestions. Last thing that I would like to cover is the cost of everything. We get telephone poles for free. For my project, I will need to have my fellow scouts and friends to help me, so that will be free as well. I will need help with the cost of the gravel and culvert, but this is well worth it because it will be helping the cross-country team, golf team, and mowers. Are there any questions?
Do you have an estimated cost about how much the gravel that you would need?
So, I've not figured that out yet. But that's because there's a lot of different prices, and I would have to reach out to some store that would sell it.
I don't know anything about bridge building. So your designs, where do they come from? Have you talked to anybody about construction?
I've talked to Keith Du Bois and Kevin, and we went over some stuff, and just that's what we came up with.
When are you thinking you might want to do this?
Sometime this summer.
So where the current bridge is located, would that be removed and this would be replaced, or is this going to be coherent side by side?
There used to be a bridge here. I don't think it's there.
It's not this round.
Yeah,
It's back behind.
it's the back
Behind-
one, behind the bus area.
Yeah, back behind where the creek goes back, behind the baseball field. It's back in that area and in between that, and there was a bridge there before, when we bring cross-country meets, that allowed us to have a full course rather than how we have to kind of wind around
Yeah.
now. And, just over time it washed out. It would be nice now to have that, and then also have the ability to take vehicles across it. So like if you're the lead vehicle for the cross country, you could lead them, on that first route. It gives a lot more opportunities for us. Seems simple, but just that extra ability to cross the creek would open up your course.
I think we do have to look into what the liability is on that. And find out a little bit more information there.
I'm all for it if we can get everything lined up. I think it's a great idea.
Is the board okay with I'll work with Justin a little bit, and maybe some of the engineers we've already worked with, bringing them into the picture a little bit, see if this is something where we might even be able to get a culvert donated. We've had that luck before. And see if we can work on some of those things. And you say you want to start this by summer, then I'll start getting some contacts, making sure we have everything, and I think the liability would be on our end, and I think the board's okay with it. I think it's a great project.
Is that something we need to contact the surveyor in the county?
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of things that we're gonna have to discuss about permits and different things like that. And that'll be bringing you alongside. I think that'll be a great educational experience at the same time. It'll look like a really good project in the end for you to be involved with all those different agencies that'll help you. You'll be surprised how many things that we'll have to go through to get a bridge. But you'll get there. We'll work on it.
Do you have a certain time frame that you have to have this done by for like your project or your Eagle?
No, just, I have to get Eagle before I'm 15, but I'm 15 right now, so. I've got a lot of time.
But it would be nice to have this in place by next cross-country season.
Yep.
All right, well then, if the board wants me to get back in touch with Justin and then move forward from there as I get contacts
Is
made.
that okay with everybody? Yeah,
Yeah.
please do. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
presenting.
Good job.
Very great.
All right, I believe Mr. Holdren has entered the building.
Yes.
Are you ready to do your presentation? All right.
Well, I'm gonna leave these with. Thank you all. Really, beware of the eating kid bearing gifts. Thanks. Thank you all. I really, I came for a couple different reasons. One, my name is Al Holdren. I know many of you. I work with a company called Elite Managed IT. Who both the owners are graduates here, or the Thomas boys.
Yes.
You know, Gary and Mike Thomas, back in the day. They asked me, and I made the call to Superintendent Mealy and said, the guys would like to offer something to the school corporation. They'd like to do something for the corporation. And we were doing a lot of assessments, really looking at everything IT that you have. And if we can make recommendations, so be it. Are you in a good place, or are you in a not a good place, or are you in an awful place? I will tell you, you're in a really good place. I brought some information. The only thing, and really, Superintendent Mealy and Greg Davis made a comment, said, you know, we just asked Greg, said, is there anything out there on your kind of agenda and whatever that you really just don't have in place? It's the best IT room. I've seen a bunch of them. I've never seen one and had a director that understood what he has, and that's cream of the crop. I don't know of another corporation. I haven't seen one yet. I've been to a bunch of them.
that really has that quality of things. You have some nice backup options in place with the system that's there. I brought, and I'll give you, I've got 6, 7 copies for you. I don't need to bore you and you need to pour through more paperwork than you have. You can share that with the board. But we did provide 2 options for you. The one thing that you don't have is, and it's, you know, it's terrible, but you know, we did have a tornado come within about 200 yards. My wife's school teaches a 5th grade teacher at Selma Elementary, and that tornado had went a little more to the south. You know, should be teaching in a trailer right now. And so the one thing that you don't have, you do not have cloud backup. If the equipment is great, and if you have a server go down, it will automatically switch to another server. Some high level stuff. Most have not really jumped to that level. So I commend Greg for, you guys have got a winner. The guys, he just knows his stuff. He was talking to one of my smart guys, and that is at my company, and that is not me. He was talking with one of them. They're talking about things that I couldn't even spell it. And he walked away and he goes, he's really good, Al. And I've never heard him say that. It's always like, man, I got nothing he's talking about. There's 2 options with you for that. We've got information, I've got proposals for those. One is that you would put it out in the cloud, but we can, if you would get another appliance, building gets taken out or that something gets taken out because it's all right there. So you really have nothing at that point. If it's backed up out in the cloud, at least we can download it once Greg gets a new appliance or gets a new rack put in place. It all comes down to how long you can be out of business. The one allows us, if we virtualize it, it's out there and we can spin it up. We can actually spin that server up in the cloud and then automatically just put it back on. We get access. You give him, Greg, wherever he's at his house, we can give him access to all of your data. The other one doesn't have that ability. It's a little cheaper per month. You know, it's a little cheaper per month. You don't have that ability, but once you got a new appliance, then we would just download it. So the difference is probably a couple days. Are you talking about 1 day or 3 days? And that's not a decision that we would make. That's a board. That's a higher level than I can think about doing that. That is the only thing that they came back with me as that you're missing. So from a board, you never know till you do an assessment, till you go look at everything. You should be very confident in really what you have. So thank you. Thanks for the kind. I thanked Gary and them and told them thank you in advance. I said, I know they'll appreciate doing that. That is normally $2,000.
$2,000 a month or?
No, I'm sorry, $2,000 a month to do what we did, to do that assessment,
Oh,
to take a look
assessment.
at the building, look at all that. And that's a gift from the Thomas brothers. And they appreciate it. And they talk fondly other days here. We kid and talk about all that. So thank you. And then secondly, the second thing, I want to tell you, thank you. Townsend's heavily involved. Remember the kid, eating kid bringing gifts. Be scared.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And for the
Thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. That goes to Emily Carpenter. You have a hat. When you, that would be a schmeedium. None of us need any of that, so thank you. For those that are within the crowd also, and I want to talk to, my family started a program called Secret Families. Many of you, something you may know about. And if you've become wrapped or delivered or been involved with it, donated money. Thank you. Your corporation, with his leadership, came to me and just said, we want to be more involved. And by the way, Emily Carpenter is awesome. We sometimes struggle getting names, and thank you all for allowing that indulgence of that. The families that we serve have to come from a school principal or someone within the school, sometimes the superintendent. Typically, it was Kathy Hunt. She was first one in every time. Andy, have any more slots? I got 2 more kids. I got 2 more families. How can I help? Wes-Del's been phenomenal we can't do what we do, and this year was 387 families in Delaware County that we provided for the entire Christmas for, large and in part because the people they had there. So thank you, very cordial. But the reason I came, and I'm starting here this year, we've not been as good at this as I should have been. We get busy, life gets busy. But here's the reality. Wes-Del was the first school corporation in 20 years. I've never had it happen. This year we had it happen that all of our staff is in. Bus drivers are in, everybody else, and it's June, December. And you can pay X amount. We've never had an entire corporation involved in that. That's a big deal. That's that stepping outside of this wall's community service. And they're your kids. They're not my kids. I had two heathens at home, but they're not my kids. But thank you for just allowing that. All of you, just really, you're all a part of what we do. It takes a lot. We have raised usually we have to raise $180,000 in 6 weeks. We don't function all year long. So you guys were a big part of that. With the exception of Cowan Elementary, that's one of the larger, we have Cowan Elementary raises about $6,500 a year with one school. That's just the kids and the staff. They do a lot of things. Very interesting. Lyndon Schwartz is an interesting cat. He just gets a lot done. But thank you. I know the t-shirt's not much. I just want you to know that we do appreciate what you've done, what you've allowed your soup to do and come and be involved, and your staff to all be involved. It doesn't go unwarranted, and believe me, there's, as Amy's been in the middle of, 800 ladies shopping at the same time at Meijer. And if you ever get a chance to go to Meijer on the first Saturday of December in the morning, you need to pass. They will run you into the ground and throw you to the deck. They don't care at all what's going on. And here's the thing. I also want to leave you. Sorry, I literally dropped this in the parking lot. 2 things. One, take one of these and pass it around. You do the same with that. This is the invitation. We are actually, if any of you are familiar with what Redalza was, Meridian Health Services, ours is not nails and hair in tuxes. It's this huge fundraiser, first annual for this. I invite you. You're welcome. Your businesses are welcome. You're welcome to, as a board. We sell the tables. It's not free. Every table we sell sponsors another family and then also pays for the rest of the night. Huge auction. Andy Wagner, if you're auctioning people and you've ever been to Andy Wagner, Wagner's going to be auctioning a lot of stuff. Absolutely. Please share with me. Auctioning a lot of really cool. I mean, we're talking mowers and we're talking Airbnbs, hopefully south enough in Florida that there's no snow. You name it, we're auctioning all kinds of things. Those that are shooters, you will be very happy. There will be a lot of guns that night. There'll be a lot of guns that will be rattling off. So please come if you want to come. Buy a table, bring some people out, and go do that. The other flyer is our flyer for this year, just so you have in advance. I want you to have in advance the date, what's going on. It's a little background. Share it. The more information we need. The only thing that's tough about Secret Families is raising the money. We're just brutally honest with that. If it was easy, this thing's a cakewalk. Logistically, it happens. You're also welcome. Please come out that day if you want to volunteer for something. Go to the website and anybody else. Please come out, bring your family. It's very kid oriented. If a kid, if he can count to 10, knows his colors, I have a job for him. I don't know what grade that would be, but whatever it is, we'd love for you to come out and be involved with that. Bring the kids out. They're not born givers, they're taught givers by you. They just are. So please come out and be involved. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you all for the courtesy for the last 20 years. And sorry, I've been 20 years saying thank you. We're going to change that. So, love you all. And if you need anything else besides me with that, there's zero pressure with that. We just want to make sure we followed up with that assessment and make sure we provide a solution if we say there's, and it is not a problem. It's not a problem. In the world of that Good, I'm sorry, I didn't see you in the room. I'm kissing up and saying nice things, but I didn't see you in the room. I hate you. We'll get out in the hallway and have that conversation. But, it is nothing. I didn't want to not bring anything, to it. You're 99% there, and that was just one thing, and it's honestly, it would take an act of God to really put you in a poor position to go do that. I say that, and something happens, and it's my fault. But, thank you all, and thank you for your time the other day. It was very kind, and I was incredibly impressed. Your setup and what you fix on it. We just don't have that every day. And if you'd been with me today, you would understand. Thank you.
Thanks,
Love
Alex.
it. Questions? Anybody? I'll
Do you know
leave
how much a table is?
$750 for a table. $550 goes and sponsors a family. And then the other $200 pays for, it's at the Wedding Factory in Albany. Wedding Factory in Albany, and there's Munciana scholarships. Ivy Tech's come up with a scholarship. Probably the first time they've ever donated scholarship to anything, so. You know,
When do your volunteer list go live?
I'm
Because
sorry.
the volunteer online get on
Typically March 1st.
March 1st,
March 1st is
because
usually.
they fill up pretty quickly.
They fill up real quick, especially the shopping will go, it'll be open for about 3 weeks and then it'll be full and then the wrapping will fill up. Here's what I need you. If you got a truck, come and deliver trees for me. It's typically a bunch of old guys. That's what we really have, and they don't sign up and none of them have a computer. So they just show up that day. I don't know if I'm gonna have 6 teams or 63. So if you're interested, and that's a fun thing, you get in the house and actually set up Christmas trees for them. It's a great experience for your kids if you've not have been involved. And just, you know, when you do call me and say, hey, I know Big Al, and, you know, I'll make a connection. Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Do I? I'm gonna leave. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine, yeah, thank you so very much.
Nope, you have to
I
stay.
actually have another meeting I need to get to.
No.
If I could, real quick, I
Yeah,
just,
sure.
Bill and Thomas Brothers, first of all, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For doing that. Secondly, I just want to clarify, the staff raised about $2,000 on their casual December. And then I want to highlight the middle school student council who had a Halloween dance that raised another $1,000. So we were able to give $3,000 for Secret Families. So
Was that a team out, the group that came out? Those kids were awesome that came out.
that was Mrs. Gill's group, wasn't it? FBLA?
They, I mean, these kids been on a farm before. They know. Yeah. I need farm kids. I don't need city kids. Sorry, I say that. Yeah, you said it out loud. I need somebody to be able to pay it for. I'm moving stuff.
Well, thanks, Al.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Appreciate
time.
it.
Appreciate it. I'll leave the rest, I'll leave you all these and
Okay.
leave you alone
I
and
think
let you
you-
do something.
You had, I don't know what that is for sure.
Thank
All right, we will move on to the consent agenda items. Have you had the chance to look through the claims? Any questions on those?
Can we clarify what the old National Bank transactions are?
Well, National Bank is your bondholder. So whenever you're paying your 2023 bond project, it's coming out of the old National.
Okay.
Okay. So you had a chance to look at the minutes? We can move on to the personnel items. Any
If I can
comments?
talk about that administrative content I added in the, for item A.
Okay,
It's not for action. It's just something I would like the board to think about. So there should be a board recommendation there. As you can see, and tonight you're getting, and I'd like to speak first about the person. You're getting a resignation, but it's really a retirement. Sharon Fowler as the business manager, treasurer. As you know, Harry, her husband, just passed away, but Sharon let me know that this was her intent before that. Very difficult decision for Sharon, very difficult decision, and going to be impossible to replace for Wes-Del Community Schools. I know that I don't want this to go and just be
a resignation of a lady who has done so much and we not say anything about that. Sharon's been here, as I said, over 20 years as your treasurer. A lot of the things that she does are not seen by even the staff, but if they get their check on time, that's because of Sharon. She sits down with the individuals, all new employees, and does all the onboarding when it comes to benefits and payroll, and anything that is done is really done by Sharon and Teresa together. And I think a lot of times in small districts, we forget how difficult that really can be with 160 employees for 2 people. And that we have an office of really 3 that work in business. Without those 2 ladies, but especially without Sharon Fowler, it's going to be difficult to move forward. She is about as dear to me as anybody in the district and as important to me as anyone in the district. And I hate to see her go, and I wish she was here, but I know she couldn't handle it if she had been here. Very emotional for her, but I think this should be emotional for our entire community, because she came to us when Steve McCauley needed somebody. When we were needing someone that could balance the books and get the bank statements right. And she hasn't missed a beat in 20 years, and we are where we are because of her. So I have a recommendation here that goes along with this. Working beside her for those same amount of years was Teresa Weitzel, and is Teresa Weitzel, our deputy treasurer. The board has, in the recommendation, my recommendation does not have to be acted on tonight. I'd like you just to think about it. The timing of Sharon Fowler stepping down here in February is a difficult time to make that switch, but nothing against her decision. But I think it would really be good for our business department to consider Teresa Weitzel moving from deputy treasurer into the treasurer position. The board has the ability to open the position. You can do that, but I just really don't want to overlook someone who I've talked to and is willing to take that seat, has worked alongside someone for 20 years. I think that would help that transition. I'd just like the board to consider that. And we can make an action on that. But if the board still would like to open it up, we can do that internally, or we can do that externally and internally. But I have all the confidence that Teresa could definitely slide in there. And the other reason why I bring this recommendation now is if you could move in more of an expedited manner, then they can work together as they transition.
Additional training.
Is there any legalities that has to be posted or anything as far as that position goes to the public?
That position is not a certified teacher's position. It's a classified position. The board can do what they choose with it. You can post it just to be, I would say, to be safe, but you can also go ahead and move forward as soon as you post it on a plan, if that's what you want to do. So for example, you could say, we're going to post this internally for 2 weeks, and you do not have to post it externally. And you can see if you get some ideas, but I think it's good to be transparent about your plan, especially when you have someone who has that kind of experience in that office. It's a really important position.
How long do they work together for?
They've been together for 20 years.
Total.
Wouldn't it be more like a promotion than a new, it wouldn't be a new hire at that point, would it? Be a
No, she would
promotion
just
for
slide
Teresa?
into, you're just moving her into a new position. And yeah, there would be a salary change with that.
Is there an opening for her
Right.
position?
Then you would open her position.
Yes.
Currently, she sits in that position, so I wouldn't do that until you make a decision to move, and then we would open the other. And we do have subs that we use for administrative assistants, and we can put a sub in there while you're doing that, so we're not without in that position as well. So when one of them is out, we have a current sub we utilize, which is actually Sharon's daughter.
Would you
She comes
recommend
in
us to
as
move on
subs.
that tonight?
You don't have to.
What's your recommendation?
I think it would be good for you to be transparent about the idea, but I think it would be smart to post, or at least internally for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just so you're covering that, just in case someone would say. And if you get an applicant in there, then you go ahead and go through the process if you want to have me interview. If you don't get an applicant, as they say, they can view this and see kind of the idea of what we're talking about. I just think the timing of it and a person with that much experience working in that office. I would hate for us to overlook that. So it's just, so I guess my recommendation is to post internally and then to also take this into consideration.
And we'll have it next meeting then, make a decision next meeting.
Yeah, her last day will be February the 28th. So if we decide on the 13th, there's only going to give like 2 weeks
That's where
for
I'm,
the
we're
training
getting
aspect.
close on time.
Yeah.
Well,
Not
here's what I
saying
can
that we
tell
really
you,
don't
here's what I
want
can tell you, there's nothing wrong with saying this is what you're anticipating to do and letting them work together a little bit. And then if you don't end up, I mean, they're working in there now together. So they're gonna start talking about that now that you made this.
I just hate to let time get away if it, and it seems like it's a pretty critical position to have a lapse there. I mean,
I would move forward.
I just
Go ahead.
want
and
to
The more,
post it
the
now.
more time that they have together, the more
better.
benefits.
She's been there for 20 years for training. I don't see an issue.
I think I would like move to go forward with Teresa moving in that position and maybe posting her position and seeing what
Later.
What happens there?
Later.
So you're getting a motion from Larry.
Is it actionable item?
If he wants to make that motion, he can, yeah.
do we need to do it? We'll do it separate from the consent agenda then?
You can pull it out if you'd like to. Pull out item A.
Is that
Okay, so let's,
A,
since he's already made the motion for that.
or is
we need
that
to-
personnel?
Is there a second to Larry's motion of moving forward with Teresa into,
Second.
so we're moving, the motion is to move Teresa into Sharon's position and then open up Teresa's position. We'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is adopted. Okay, now back to consent agenda. So we have removed item A. So we do need a motion for the rest of the consent, I can't say that tonight, consent agenda B through E.
Do we still have to, or was that approving Sharon's resignation with that?
Yeah, you accept,
Okay.
you,
Okay, I'm sorry.
We'll put
We're
the-
accepted there.
we'll take that into the motion that you
Okay.
accepted it, but the same motion you placed Teresa into that position.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just
No, we
kind of
didn't.
got out of. I moved to approve consent agenda items B through E.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda items B through E have been adopted. Okay, we'll move on to reports, month-end reports.
You have your month-end December reports, starting with your appropriation reports. And really, December end is the end of your fiscal year. So you can look in there, and as you're looking at your appropriation reports, you can see the percent encumbered to the far right of any of your line items in there. And you'll see that some are under, some are over. So for example, if you see the preschool teacher salaries, what we have appropriated of the 43,000 in there, you'll see that we have, at the end of the year, we went into, what is that, 108% of that, so that meant we went over by 3,000. Now, what that means is appropriations are your authority to spend. Doesn't mean your actual money. It means it's the authority you have to spend inside your budget. What the key is there are some that are going to be expended over and some that are going to be under. The key is at the bottom of the entire report to make sure your balances stay under and that you haven't over expended your appropriations. If you would have, we would have came to you ahead of time and asked for additional appropriations through a resolution that the board would have to pass. And I'm just going through this for you because new members, it's always something that we have to talk about is why you would have, what the difference is in appropriations and why we would have a resolution to ask for additional appropriations. The board, another education piece is you have to be approved by the department or the DLGF, which is the state allowing you to do that. So you can't just say in a resolution you want to add appropriations. It has to go through the state, and they have that same organization, government organization that approves your budget would have to approve that additional appropriations. And you have to have cash available to back that. We didn't do that this year because if you look through this, you've stayed under your appropriations. another key piece as to why the action you just made is great, because this is what your treasurer does day in and day out to make sure that you're on top of that. So your appropriations report is in there. Your fund report is your second one, and that one really tells you on the far right what your current balance is. And it lists your different funds, starting with 101 education fund, and then you see your debt service 200, operations your 300, it goes on through. And you can see everything from the school lunch on down through any of our grants, so if there's an item listed that has a, like 1704, you'll see Mr. Williams and Mr. Lamb listed there. That would be a grant. So that's grant money that they have. So we list all these out so you as a board see all of this. And your grand total again of all your funds is at the bottom page. But that is taking in all your cash from grants and from your debt service. So that's deceiving. The two main funds you want to watch are your first line education fund. Remember, that's all teacher salaries and benefits and anything that touches the classroom. So your current balance there is $944,346.47. That's where you ended the year, and you'll carry that over into the next year as your cash. That is a little healthier than we have been in the past. Some of the former board members know. We've made some adjustments to help that. It's not exactly where we want to be by any means. Then you add in 300, your operations, and you see that you have $499,475.55 there. Those are two really big funds because that's your day-to-day. So that's what that right hand is telling you, what your current balance is. You can also see what your month-to-date revenue was, what your month-to-date expenses were, your beginning month balance, and your year-to-date expenses and revenue. So that's what you're reading on a fund report. But what's key is education fund is where you make your payroll, and your operations fund is where you make your custodial maintenance and any of your operations payrolls. Those are the ones you want to make sure you have that cash in. And it'll take a hit because January is a 3-pay month. So don't be surprised if you see it go down a little bit whenever you have your 3-pay. And then your last one is your revenue report. And you can see what each one of those funds is bringing in as revenue. And they are great reading, but they are important. That is something to remember. That is you have two main jobs as a board, policy and finance. So those are key items. Any questions? You don't have to approve these.
No. Well, we'll move on to superintendent's report then.
All right. A couple of quick facility updates, baseball and softball update. We do have a new project superintendent from FH Passion, which is your contractor, and that is due to they have let the other superintendents of the projects go. They made a change, and I met with them, and it is on their end that they want to get this done where they're behind schedule. So they made a change in who was leading the project. Right after they made the change, we had the coldest weather of the year, and that delayed a lot of any of the work out there because of the cold weather. So I have been reassured from the new project superintendent, who was moved off another job, and he's been with the company for a long time, that he said he is a guy who gets it in by the deadline. So may not be pretty how he gets it done, and that is on his side, he means, with his people, but it's going to get done. So I was happy to hear that, but we did run into that cold weather. So that's why you haven't seen a lot happening out there. Collection relining project update. We'll be posting for bids in the Star Press, and we hope to have bids to the board in the February 27th meeting, and that is for the relining of the sewage pipes underneath the middle high school here. Personnel positions that we need to discuss. We have the Rural Transformation Zone, you'll hear that called RTZ, grant positions that are ending this year. That was a 3-year grant where we received almost $2.5 million. We were in that grant with Washington Schools and Cambridge City Lincoln. And we had an academic counselor position that we added, a special education instructor that we added, an employability skills coordinator. We did not add that position,
That was one of our counselors, but we just paid their salary out of that for those 3 years. We will maintain the employability skills coordinator position because they're also a counselor. They do dual duty there. We'll maintain that position. But with the grant ending, I would not recommend that you keep those positions because you don't have the funds to continue those. So that would mean that I have letters today that the president would sign and myself that we would be informing, and they're aware when they took the positions that these were only going to last through the grant.
We have that fills out grants for items.
Like who writes grants?
Yes, for us, for the school system.
So any of the large grants like that one,
Yeah.
it was myself and I worked with EES, which is the consultants we were working with, and we teamed up with Washington and Cambridge City Lincoln, and we all worked together to write the grant to receive it. Usually large grants are my office, myself. We don't have a grant writer on staff, but smaller grants, the staff, the principals, teachers, we get a lot of smaller rapid grants, or you look at the Betty Clark Foundation grants, those are written by administrators and teachers. Ball Brothers grants, those can be written by administrators and teachers. So the larger grants are usually written from central office, and it's usually the superintendent. So just informing you of those positions. And then the second position there I want to inform everyone about is that I know we have new board members that may not be aware, but the previous board, through some budget and financial decisions, decided to reduce the director of student learning position at central office. And that was informed to that person prior to Christmas that was going to be reduced out. And that would be something right now we need to formally give a letter to that employee and let them know. They know verbally, but. On to academics, you have a new diploma. It's something that is linked in there. The new diploma I'm not going to go through tonight because I would like Mr. Purdue to come in and the high school staff and Mrs. Goldstein come in and really take you through what that new diploma looks like in a presentation so you can get any of your questions answered. They've spent a lot of time looking at this, looking at what it's going to do to change in classes and staffing, and really they're like all other schools across the state. This has been approved at the end of the last year, 2024, and it needs to be implemented now. And that's really difficult, but schools always get that done. So that's going to change some things. It's going to be a change for your incoming freshmen and how it works moving forward. There are good pieces to the new diploma, but there is a lot of teaching and misunderstanding that's going to take place because it's not easy to understand. So that's why, rather than muddy things up tonight, I need you to be aware of it. There's a link there to go and look at it. And then we should have the high school principal and the counselors come in and really take you through it so you understand here in the near future. I'd like to hopefully see that in February or March if we can. Board calendar, I'm not going to go through. For good news, we've talked about this at the last meeting, but I want to congratulate our girls wrestling state qualifiers, Sophia Gropp and Paisley Chambers. They represented us well. They went down and unfortunately they lost in the first morning session, but what an honor to have two of our wrestlers qualify and represent us at the state level. So wanted to highlight those two young ladies. And then I really want to highlight that we have, in a class of about 57 students, we have 4 confirmed, and there may be more, students who applied and have been accepted as engineering students at Purdue. And that's not easy. And in a school our size, with our emphasis on STEM, I think that Austin Williams, David Lamb, they need to be highlighted and congratulated. That is quite an honor to already have 4 students that have been accepted, and there'll be more out of that size of a class. That says a lot for our school, and that the board 5 years ago leaned into science, technology, engineering, and math, and they're starting to see that helps and is going to be careers for our students. So I'd like to just congratulate Austin and the staff at the high school. Congratulate David and staff at the elementary. STEM is a really good thing, and it's put us ahead of a lot of people. So that's all I have.
And then just on the grants, there's no grants out there that we could maybe apply for to.
I
help these
can
positions?
look. That's a once in a career.
No, I know that one won't be.
Yeah,
replaced,
that
but if
2.5 million, but I can
smaller
look and
versions of
see. I can see if we could do that. I know that Mr. Purdue, I know he's at a ball game that his son's playing in right now. He had mentioned to me that all of the positions are very important, but that middle school academic counselor position has really been worthwhile. Not that the others haven't, but that was one that if I can seek a grant and try to get one for that, it would really help our kids, especially at the middle school level. And an academic counselor, basically that individual is working one-on-one with kids that need some extra work and extra attention. And it's exactly what you think it is, sitting down, and it doesn't matter. It's usually math and English, and they are working one-on-one with them in intensive tutoring and assistance. So it's a nice piece.
All right, moving on to old business. We've got the policy revision that we've looked at the last couple of meetings. We just need to approve that if there's no other questions or comments about it. We need a motion.
Motion to adopt the fall 2024 policies.
Is there a second?
I did have one question. On the policy. Use of school equipment. Is there something where someone's wanting to use something, or?
This is a recommended policy from the Indiana School Board Association.
Okay.
And they're just recommending that you put one in place in case that ever comes about. No one has asked to use it, but it's happening somewhere else in other districts, and so they're your service is telling you it would be good to have one. It's not a mandatory policy. It's under their discretionary policies where they'd say it would be good for you to have it before it's in place.
I thought it was a little unusual that we would be allowing that to take place because of liability and equipment and everything. So I just thought that was a little unusual. And then you get to always the situation of, you said yes here, no here, you know. So that was my one question on that there.
And you guys have the authority to strike any of them.
Any other comments, thoughts?
But we have not had anyone ask.
Oh, is there a second to that? Okay, any other discussion about this? Okay, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is adopted. Next item is the 2025-26 school calendar.
I'm sorry. Yes, I did.
We have looked at this, and for the conversation last meeting, calendar number draft 2 was what the teachers were recommending. Is there any
And administrators, both you teachers and administrators.
teachers and administrators?
Chose calendar 2.
So that's in
It's
front
still
of
the
you.
board's decision though.
We need to have a motion on the calendar.
Motion.
Is there a,
Yep. I second that.
okay, so we're going to vote on approving the school calendar number 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is adopted. Then our old business naming of facility that we had brought up last time. Was just a discussion point tonight. Mr. Mealy has put in several different policies from other schools in our area.
I also have the packet that you gave. I want to highlight that you did a lot of work on that too. So these are still there if you need them, the policies that Amy brought to us last meeting. And you'll see a lot of the same in those policies.
Just gonna have more discussion around this.
What I read, most schools are similar to what we have. I don't see any reason to change our policy on this. I think it's, yes.
So you would be out on like doing the board thing, like if we had like a committee that would give recommendations to?
I don't think we need to change our policy on the naming of the buildings and that kind of thing. All the policies I read, I mean, not all of them, but the majority of them had a clause in there with if you name in a building, the person need to be deceased. And I think we ought to stick with that. I think a wall of fame or a hall of fame.
Yeah,
is a
that's
great-
why I just was.
No, I
clarifying
think
if
that's,
you were
we
like-
could do that and not change our policy. And I think that, in my opinion, that'd be a better route to go.
So then keep what we have currently and then set a new policy in place for a board to take in considerations
I don't
for,
know that it has to be
or-
another policy. I think we just need to maybe, the policy can stay, but that is talking about naming a part of the building or the building itself. I think the thought process is to come up with a Hall of Fame or Wall of Fame or something. And then, I like the ones where there's a committee that does that and then they bring it to us. So we're not in the picking and choosing, and then it's done like maybe once a year. So it's not going to be just a constant nominations for this sort of thing.
I think somebody ought to bring it to us and Miss Meyer Fisher, I think she's a great one. I think maybe we ought to start there and get the ball rolling. But I do think we need to form a committee and that brings us something, or a staff member. I don't think it necessarily has to be a teacher either. I think it ought to be a corporation type of thing.
How's the athletic one done? How's that decided?
So the Athletic Hall of Fame is a separate nonprofit that is run by I believe Dave Land is on that, Deb Baldwin, Mike Bush, the sitting athletic director, the sitting superintendent, and the sitting principal of the high school. Not the actual people that are, not our names, but the position is on that group. Anyone can nominate, any community member can nominate a former athlete for the Hall of Fame. That is collected then by that board, because they are their own board. And there is a process to where you go through and the selection, and each person votes, and then the number of votes that person gets, then they're accepted in by the certain number of votes. So you might get 28 nominees, but you might only get 9 that get enough votes to go in. And then once they've been nominated, they stay in the nominations, I forget for the amount of time. So once a person's been nominated, they will come up the next year if they weren't put in the pool of nominees. The board does that,
Okay.
but you could, since you are the board, you can create a committee. It can be anyone you choose. You could say it could be teachers, administrators, someone who represents your non-certified staff if you're going to do not just teachers. And you could easily call everyone. I consider everybody here an educator. They're educating a kid in their own way. Might be your bus driver, might be your custodian, but they're an educator. So you could call it Educator Hall of Fame. And you could set what you would like to see as the governing body of the number of seats on the committee. How many of those are a teacher? How many of those are a non-certified, which would be a classified staff member? One of your, could be a director of operations or maintenance that you put on there. Could be some of your administrators, and you could put a board member on there. And
Because obviously I don't have ties, you see what I'm getting at, to somebody who's familiar from 20 years ago. You know, you, out of sight, out of mind, you lose that particular person. How do you go about that?
you could place you could ask and see if you would want to put a retired teacher on there.
Well, I also feel like if you have a committee, we need to have kind of an application process where they do provide some history on this person, because to your point, there's going to be people that, you know,
There's people I don't know.
right.
I just hate to foresee to where everything's in the future, sort of type, you know, to where like, do you know who so-and-so was for that time period? I mean,
When I was in this seat and voting on the Athletic Hall of Fame, I had only heard stories of some of these people. So we relied on the fact that we had Dave Land and we had Kay Carmichael on there, and those people from that time period. So I think it would be smart to find someone that would be willing to serve, that has that background, that can say, you know, I know what this person did, and vouch for them in those meetings to say they are worth this. Because that's kind of what happens is when the nominees come in, you don't know somebody, someone on that board tells us, well, this is what they did, this is the sports that they played. So you'd want somebody that could do that. So I think it would be good to have different generations of people on there. I think it would be good to have different, you know,
Maybe some type of year, like decade representations.
and you know, then they would bring, I think they need to create some type of criteria for you to approve.
can you get a format on how the Athletic Hall of Fame does theirs? Like there's 10 people involved. There's a voting process that takes 6 out of 10 to be able to be.
Yeah, I have all that in our bylaws.
Well, and the other aspect we have to think about is the funding of this and where that's going to come from. So,
And you do have an education foundation. So there is a Wes-Del Education Foundation, which Mr. Burkett is actually the director of. Now, I will tell you that funding for that has been something they've been working on, trying to get funds into that. But that foundation is set up already, and it is a non-for-profit. It is connected to you. Mr. Burkett is the director of that. I believe it's Trent Dowling, Jay McGaddis, Ashley Ernstberger,
Brittany.
Hoover. Am I right?
It's Brittany Williams, but.
Oh, Grimm.
Yep.
All have connections to Wes-Del. This could be something you could, it's the Wes-Del Education Foundation. And the history of that was, it was created before the Betty Clark Foundation, when Betty Clark Carter was going to gift the money for the foundation. At that time, she needed it to be a foundation set up. So legally, we set up the foundation, and then 2 weeks before her passing, she decided she wanted to switch that foundation to be her foundation in her name. So we already had the Wes-Del Foundation set up, but we weren't going to stop Betty from doing what she wanted to do. So that's why that foundation is separate. So our foundation still exists, and it has all its paperwork, and it has its bylaws, and that could be something you could look at, they would work on, and then we could figure out how we want to give some funding into that, you know, through maybe some donations and start that. And
So, something else that we had talked about when we met last time, which we need to meet again, but we want to do like a alumni association, not to pay into, but just so we know where people are at, to connect them with what we do. And Mr. Mealy sends out, you know, what's going on, the happenings. It'd be nice to be able to attach that and send it out via email, whether they read it or not, but they would at least have some sort of connection. There are a ton of people from Wes-Del that
live around here that don't necessarily, their kids don't go here, but they connect, and maybe they want to come back. So we know that our ADM count matters for our education fund and all of that, so we want them to want to feel like they're part of here.
And
You
you,
can get donations if you start that association. It may not be you have to pay to join, but if you volunteer to donate.
Once they know the things that we're going to do, like if we do this Hall of Fame for
Yeah, I think it would be
educators,
great to hook up and,
a great thing to bring up at that meeting. Typically, a standing board member, the standing board member that is,
I think it's the president.
is it the president? Okay.
So it would be
You
Amy
get
now.
me.
Yeah, it was Larry.
If-
But
So
that-
that would be something that we need to get together
Yeah.
and talk. There's some things we need to talk about.
That might be your route right
Yeah.
there, is to get your education foundation involved, and then they might be able to
set up your committee, and then you can add, you know, Amy as your board member, and then another board member on that committee, and they could go out and find some teachers, and I think they could work with you together. Since both, you know, you're obviously set up and they're set up, I think it's there, and that would actually get their name out there a little bit more, that the foundation exists.
that's a great way to move forward with
So
that.
I'm delegating that right now
Yeah.
over to Mr. Burkett, if that's okay.
Give me some grace till best we see.
Yeah, well, we'll work on it.
No, we want it all done right now.
So
So,
I think
okay.
that could definitely be
No, I think
something
it'll be a
that
good connection.
be something that we could actually do some fundraisers on and get some donations. I think you'd be surprised if people come forward and donate to get that going.
I agree. All right.
Next step. Asking that there, but what's our next step?
We will
We'll have to
probably,
call a meeting. I mean, I think we call a meeting, the Education Foundation members. We talked
They-
last time about, just to talk about,
Is there any chance to get them here maybe next?
sending,
so you don't have standing meetings?
not regularly. We talked about it last time, and they were like, we don't want to meet all the time if we're not going to have anything to add, you know? So there's not always a lot of things for the Education Foundation. Now, it could be eventually, but right now, there's just not.
When you thought you were getting almost
$1.5 million, you thought you had things going and you get it all set up, and nothing against that, but then when it shifted, they just don't have any funds. And so it's hard to do anything without any funds.
Of getting that going though.
Yes, I think it could be really good. And then I love the alumni idea. I think that's a great idea they have.
Then we would have our financial back in order to start our wall essentially. And then they could also be the people that run it as the board, that the criteria is presented to you and you run with it.
And legally, they're already set up to
Yep.
Accept donations.
I don't see what would be too terribly expensive about getting that started. I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm not realizing.
Not just the cost of the plaques,
We have one
location,
down
maybe.
here.
The last one.
the Hall of Fame.
We took that over, right?
Oh, was it?
So they're making
Yeah, they're
payments
paying
back.
That's a bit too much. I do believe it was $8,000 to $9,000.
The Athletic Hall of Fame.
Okay, so it's more than what I thought, and I didn't realize it'd be that.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm excited about the progress with this tonight. All right, any other comments on that? Okay, we'll go to new business. Mr. Mealy was asked to bring us some options on looking at legal counsel and banks after last meeting. I don't know if you want to make any comments about that.
I've met with Dennis Winger and April out of Muncie and had a good meeting with them. They are interested in coming and speaking to you about being a potential legal counsel for the board, as is Defer Varan, and they are also a Muncie company, and they are interested as well. Then the third one I had was the current one that we were with, which was Churchill, and Antrim, and they have both locations in Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. I did share with the board that other schools and what they do, and you'll see that there are schools that have a local and also utilize Churchill, and Antrim, or a larger firm for some other issues. So we work right now, just so you're clear, we work with Churchill, and Antrim on we pay them as they work, not on a contract. So when they do stuff for us, they send us a bill and we pay them for what they've worked. And so you don't have a standing contract of a certain amount that you pay them on. They work through that. I don't know what your locals will do. They would come to you. That would be your next step, is come to you and come to the public meeting and present to you what that would look like in utilizing them. You want me to talk about the banks?
Yeah, go ahead.
I made contact with Old National on Morrison Road, First Merchants on Nebo, and then contacted Trent Dowling with Star Bank. Just to give you, Old National has gotten back to me as of yesterday, late yesterday, through email that they would be interested in speaking with you. I have not heard back from First Merchants via email or phone. I left them a voicemail and a email. Star Bank is still very much interested in being the bank. They've been our bank for almost 60 years. I did talk with Teresa Weitzel in the office about what that might look like. Of course, you know, none of us here have made that switch, but there will be a lot of fees in making your switch. Some other things I think that need to be considered. Star Bank gives us around $10,000 in corporate sponsorship each year. That includes corporate sponsorship to the athletic department. They pay for they help to pay for the Teacher of the Year award. They help, in fact, in that Teacher of the Year award, they gave us $500 last year to help. And that money just goes to the teacher, and then we matched that at $500. So the Teacher of the Year last year received $1,000, and they purchased 2 meals a year for our teachers, corporation staff. Those can range anywhere from, for our whole corporation staffing, $2,500 to $3,000 to feed all our employees at the first day and the last day of the year. They've sponsored those meals. They sponsor the Wes-Del Sports Network. They give $1,500 every year in a 3-year contract. And whenever we have equipment that we need beyond that, some of that helps us live stream here. They usually just step up and help us with that. So it's just something to consider when you're looking outside of that. I think I would be remiss not to mention those things that they do beyond just being your bank. When it comes to your interest, I have met with our bank many times about our interest, and we have one of the most competitive situations with our interest on our accounts. And so, and I do know that the Star Bank is the virtual bank and was our bank in Gaston. So they are still very much interested. Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of connections.
Let's start the discussion with the legal counsel. What do you guys want to do with that?
One question, did you reach out to, and I'm going to say it wrong probably, is it Giesling or,
Beasley and Gilkins.
there you go, thank you. Okay.
I mean, I feel like it was probably beneficial for us to see if the 3 legal groups would come in and do their presentations for us as quickly as we can get that lined up.
And I can add anyone that you guys want to add to that.
Can you add that one there? I'm not saying I had any dealings with it, but I know one of their areas was school boards type things there. They've done it, if I don't mistaken, was our attorney before.
They were. I will say there was one situation that we ran into with that, and nothing against the people. But they were also the town of Gaston's attorney.
Yes.
And when we had to do dealings with that made it interesting.
Are they still?
I believe so. But that's just something you need to be aware of. Okay. Not that there's any problem, but if you go into if you have any issues there, someone's going to have to get outside counsel.
Good to consider. Any other comments about legal?
We have an attorney at the moment.
Yes. Just to be clear, our current attorneys are still addressing any ongoing issues that we have pending.
Okay.
I directed Kyle to go ahead and continue with that.
So the next step is, when are we going to get these presentations put together to come in here and discuss?
I'll look at their schedule and see if they can come in as early as the next meeting.
Any other questions? What about discussion around the banks?
I think they'll stay with Star just because there's a lot of connections and they help us a lot. I don't know that they've done anything that would give us a reason not to go with them.
You said, Kyle, you said that Old National did give back.
Yeah, I have an email.
Was there anything numbers wise or just anything?
They
Just,
said they'd like to set up a meeting with me to see what the board's thinking and then what the next step would be.
since we've reached out, should we listen to what they have to say first and then make a decision right after that?
Would you, to be fair for the board, would you like me to continue to try to get First Merchants and Star at that same meeting?
If that does happen, I understand where it's tough for someone to make a meeting. Sometimes paperwork kind of says what information, but that's up to you.
They usually, in the past, whenever you've done that, the board has asked, like, for the attorneys to show up and present, and they've asked for if they want your business, they should show up to the meeting.
And-
So I will continue, if you are okay. Now, First Merchants didn't get back with me, so I can change that if we want to look at it different, but
I mean, I feel like we've got to get this moving. We can't wait around for us to have three choices.
Yeah, I agree. We reached out though, so I just want to make sure we don't sit there and say, well, sorry, time's over with.
Well, I mean, if they don't get back to us on a timely manner, then I don't feel like they're showing interest. And I mean, that's not directed at any particular entity. It's just
It could be a show that they aren't together. So
Yeah. no action says.
and in their defense, their bank manager might be out for the week. And so I don't want to just throw anybody under the bus.
Merchants was a lot on the list for some of the other schools.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and a lot of it, remember, I think this is important too. We go to the bank daily. So the location is why you'll see them closer to us, because we make trips to the bank every day. So from our office, that's important.
Why would one bank have to offer that another one wouldn't, that would make the switch? I mean, I don't know that is
I'm
there
not,
gonna be a big difference?
there could be interest. I don't know any numbers whatsoever, so I was just asking, what's the difference? I don't know if one is a difference of $25,000. I don't have anything in front of me.
20 or 25,000 on the lot.
based off of interest.
Yeah, I don't know what anything is. There's nothing in front of me that, yes, I know what the past has done, which is very important. I agree 100%. But I also don't know what's in front of me to say yes or no to. I don't have a dollar amount. The only thing I got is, this is what was paid in interest last year. I don't know if that could have been $100,000, because I don't know what other institutions is paying there. I just want to look at stuff in front of me and say, yes, this is good. And yes, I agree that we have another institution that's done that, but I also got to sit here as a board member, look at everything that's available.
I just didn't know. I didn't know what would sway you to change, I guess is that's the question I was asking. If there
Well,
was something that
someone-
would sway you to change.
Someone says, hey, you get 100,000 and another place is paying you 40, that's going to sway my vote. And I'm not saying that's the big difference of it there, but I just don't know what the dollar amounts are.
It'd be an interest rate, wouldn't it?
That'd be a lot of it. There's fees that banks will charge, and they might turn around and say, this one's waived. I don't know what we have set up for all our things there for our transactions there. I don't know. Like my banking fees are zero, but my transactions is nothing compared to what the school's probably doing. Are we paying anything in transaction fees? I don't know. I'm just saying, there's nothing in front of me that tells me anything. And all I'm asking is, if one of these other institutions wants to give some information or they're interested, I'd like to listen to it. And if the answer is no, and they don't get back, then just like they said, they're not interested, then let's go back to where we were at.
I guess maybe this is a better way of asking the question, but how do we compare our apples to apples? I mean, if that's what we're gonna do, I don't know how we gotta have something, I mean, we gotta have so we need to have certain questions we need to ask them, I guess.
Yeah, I can do a couple of things for you. I can say that you just want to see paper numbers before you bring them in. It depends on what the board is choosing to do here. If you're just comparing right now and saying you're not going to make a change, but I was bringing people in thinking that you were looking at a potential change. But if you're just looking at comparing numbers, I can just ask them to email what they would like. And obviously you're not going to share that with each other. So you can just see what they're going to give you and say, give me a package of numbers if we went with Old National for our banking services. Same thing with First Merchants, same thing with Star. And if that's what you need, that would save you, because when you bring them here, you're sending a message, one, that everyone's up for a chance of an interview, almost like they're all candidates. And you're also sending a message to Star that you're unhappy. They're here, but you're unhappy with something. Maybe it's just you want to see the numbers, and you might see them and you say, you know what, looks like compared to these two, we're getting the best deal, and we don't need to bring them in, and we're going to stick with them.
I was looking at.
Yeah, and you have your direct and your indirect on that too. I mean, you just told us about what side extra help that Star does. You know, we
I
don't.
mean, they've done other things, you know, when we've been a situation where that balance has gone down, it was no time before I was able to set up a line of credit and to help us out if we were tight on our money, to be able to get that payroll taken care of. I know there's a past history when they were the bank in town that there were some situations, and this goes way back, where they bailed us out on payroll a couple times. And, you know, so I know historically they've been really good because they have a connection to this area. But if it's that simple, I think that can be easily brought back by the next meeting.
That's that simple for me.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're good with that, that would make it a lot easier on me than having to.
Have a presentation.
Yes.
You okay with that?
I just didn't know how we were gonna compare them.
No, I agree. I wasn't looking to say, hey, we got to change. I just kind of want to know what is it that we're receiving or comparison.
Get that.
All right. We're ready to move on to board comments?
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll just go around. Mr. Bat, do you have any comments?
Not a whole lot. I know I talked last week about policy and finance, what a board does, but, and I forgot to mention that as a board, we need to make sure we put the kids first in everything we do, and that's what we need to think of first and foremost. And I just wanted to be clear about that without, it's not all about the paper part of it. It's got to be mostly about the kids.
Yes, I handed Kyle, Thrive Credit Union had their school card program. Did you reach out to them to find out anything?
I haven't had time yet, doing everything with the financial and legal.
Yeah. Is that something you can do?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You know, you have the relationship. Can you do that or? No?
Yeah, but the problem is, I feel like Kyle, I mean, that's our main person there. I can sit here and tell you what it's about, but I don't.
I did talk with Chuck Reynolds at Muncie. He wasn't aware of it. And I talked to Greg Henshaw, and he wasn't aware of it. He said that both of them said it doesn't mean that they aren't utilizing it, but it could be a booster club. It could be somebody else.
The Yorktown was the community foundations, which I think is separate. Then I was told through Brittany, the other one was through the school, but like you said, it could be some branch.
That's what I'm
somewhere.
wondering. And that might be what we end up finding out, is that might be something good for our athletic booster club, as to utilize that. And then that funds, or the foundation.
Well, I was looking towards the foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might delegate, once I make contact, I might delegate to you again.
I had a question for when we can do a tour of the facilities.
We typically do our
board tour in the spring, but I would welcome a board tour whenever you guys would like to. It doesn't have to be the whole board. It can be a group, couple. Just realize that at any point when you have 3 in one location, it is technically a meeting, so we would post that we are doing a board tour at that time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just 2 of you coming in with me, walking around, that's fine. So when we formally do our board tour, we announce when we're doing that, and it's usually in April or May. And we walk the elementary, then we walk the middle high school, or vice versa, and we set that up with the principals to go through. But I would be, and I mentioned this years ago, that I would be pleased to bring you in more. And I think that would be good for all of the board members to be in the buildings more. I think it highlights what Mr. Bat said. I think it's good for you to see the kids, get to see what they do on a daily basis, and they need to see you. And I think the teachers really enjoy when you're in the buildings. So,
Well, I'd like to be able to understand when you're announcing names who they are, and have more of a understanding in that aspect too.
so if that's something you'd like to do more of, and you guys have ideas, I'm willing to schedule that in and bring you guys in. And we have a great staff that would welcome that. And I will tell you that the formal one is usually been dressed up, and it'd be nice if you just wore your Wes-Del gear and didn't feel like you had to be that formal, with it. And yeah, you look good, but wear your spirit stuff and just come in. And it can be an hour walk. It can be, the one we do in the spring is typically the whole day, and then we lead into a board meeting. But I think it would be nice just to have you come in real quick, and you may not see everybody, but then the next time you come in, you see somebody else you didn't see. So I'm open to any idea with that. I think that would be great.
I know that you spoke about the girls wrestling team members that made it to state, but could we get them in here just to get some recognition for them? Because I think that's like awesome. And I know the girls wrestling thing is just booming right now, and they've been wrestling with guys for a long time. So I think it's really cool that they now have the girls thing, and I think it would be good to have them
I will
here
get with
so we
Mr.
can
Knuckles and have them in that.
get them the representation that they deserve.
Just thank everybody for coming. We always like to see faces here while we have these meetings. And yeah, we love recognizing our students and staff that do wonderful things in the community. So thank you for presenting today, and we're looking forward to the bridge project. And that is all I have. Need a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Second it.
In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is over.
You.